Saddam Hussein was born in 1937 in the small village of Al-Ajja near Tikrit, in northern Iraq. His early life was shaped by hardship, instability, and violence. His father died before Saddam was born, and his stepfather was known to be cruel. As a child, Saddam grew up poor, angry, and determined to escape weakness at any cost. These early experiences deeply influenced his personality, teaching him to see the world as a place where power was necessary for survival. When Saddam was a teenager, he moved to Baghdad to live with his uncle, Karala Tolfa, a nationalist and former army officer. From him, Saddam absorbed strong Arab nationalist ideas and a belief that Iraq needed a powerful leader to restore pride and unity. Saddam was not an outstanding student, but he was ambitious and observant. He learned how power worked not only through ideas, but through people who could be trusted, who could be used, and who could be eliminated. In the late 1950s, Saddam joined the Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party, a political movement that mixed Arab nationalism, socialism, and authoritarian rule. The party believed that strong leadership and unity were more important than democracy. In 1959, Saddam took part in a failed attempt to assassinate Iraq's leader at the time. Wounded, he fled the country, living in exile for several years. This experience reinforced his belief that survival required secrecy, loyalty, and force. Saddam returned to Iraq in the 1960s as the Ba'ath Party slowly gained influence. In 1968, the party successfully took power in a coup. Although Saddam was not yet president, he quickly became one of the most powerful figures in the government. He controlled security forces, intelligence agencies, and internal party discipline. Quietly, he built a network of fear and loyalty, rewarding supporters and crushing rivals. In 1979, Saddam Hussein officially became president of Iraq. Almost immediately, he demonstrated how he intended to rule. At a public party meeting, he accused several high-ranking members of treason. One by one, they were taken away. The message was clear: opposition would not be tolerated. From that moment on, Saddam ruled Iraq through a combination of charisma, fear, and absolute control. At first, many Iraqis saw positive changes. Saddam invested heavily in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, using Iraq's oil wealth to modernize the country. Literacy rates improved, roads and hospitals were built, and Iraq became one of the more developed nations in the region. Saddam promoted himself as a symbol of strength and progress, placing his image on buildings, money, and television. However, beneath the surface, repression was constant. Political dissent was crushed, freedom of speech did not exist, and entire communities lived in fear. Saddam relied heavily on secret police and informants. People learned to stay silent, even in their own homes, never knowing who might be listening. In 1980, Saddam made a decision that would change Iraq forever. Believing that neighboring Iran was weak after its revolution, he ordered an invasion. The Iran-Iraq War lasted 8 long years and became one of the deadliest conflicts of the late 20th century. Millions were killed or injured, and both countries were devastated. The war drained Iraq's economy and hardened Saddam's rule. He became more isolated, more suspicious, and more brutal. Despite the enormous human cost, Saddam portrayed the war as a heroic defense of the Arab world. State propaganda praised sacrifice and loyalty, while families mourned quietly. When the war finally ended in 1988, Iraq was deeply in debt, but militarily experienced. Saddam believed he had survived one of the greatest challenges of his life, and that survival confirmed his destiny as a great leader. Only 2 years later, Saddam made another fateful decision. In 1990, Iraqi forces invaded Kuwait, accusing it of stealing oil and harming Iraq's economy. The international response was swift. A coalition led by the United States launched a military operation to push Iraqi forces out. The Gulf War of 1991 ended in a decisive defeat for Iraq. After the war, Iraq faced severe international sanctions. The country's economy collapsed, and ordinary people suffered greatly. Food and medicine became scarce. While Saddam and his inner circle remained protected, millions of Iraqis struggled to survive. Over the next decade, Saddam remained in power but increasingly isolated from the world. During this period, Saddam focused on maintaining control. He crushed uprisings, especially among Kurdish and Shiite populations, and continued to rule through fear. At the same time, he tried to project an image of defiance, presenting himself as a leader standing up to foreign pressure. To some supporters, he was a symbol of resistance. To others, he was a source of endless suffering. In 2003, the United States and its allies invaded Iraq, claiming that Saddam possessed weapons of mass destruction and posed a global threat. The Iraqi army collapsed quickly, and Saddam's government fell. For months, Saddam remained in hiding, moving between safe houses and relying on loyal supporters. His power, once absolute, had vanished. In December 2003, Saddam Hussein was captured by U.S. forces. Images of his arrest shocked the world. The man who had ruled Iraq with fear for decades now appeared old, tired, and defeated. For many Iraqis, his capture marked the end of an era, though not the end of instability. Saddam was put on trial by an Iraqi court. The proceedings were chaotic and controversial, reflecting the deep divisions within the country. In 2006, he was sentenced to death for crimes committed during his rule. His execution marked the final chapter of his life, but not the end of debate about his legacy. Today, Saddam Hussein remains a complex and controversial figure. To some, he is remembered as a dictator who ruled through violence and destroyed lives. To others, he is seen as a strong leader who brought order and national pride in a difficult region. His story is a reminder of how power, fear, and ambition can shape a nation for better or for worse. The history of Saddam Hussein is not just the story of one man, but of a country struggling with identity, authority, and the cost of absolute power. It shows how a leader's choices can influence millions of lives, and how the pursuit of control can ultimately lead to isolation and collapse.